So the crankshaft seal kit showed up in the mail yesterday. So it's time to put all this back together with new seals, new clutch. And here's the seal kit. Includes the seal and a plate and a gasket. We've got 3 transmission seals, 2 for the output left and right, and 1 for the input behind the throwout bearing. Here's the clutch kit, the new pressure plate, new clutch disc, pilot bearing, input alignment tool, grease for the I'll have to figure out what that, I think it's the pilot bearing that gets that, and then a new pilot bearing. So it's going to go, some of those parts are going to go into there. The pilot bearing goes into the flywheel. So let's start with that. Alright, I've selected a socket here that's slightly smaller in outside diameter than the bearing. So it's flush on this side, so when I go and reinstall, it'll be flush on the same side as well, but I'll drive it out the other way. So now I need, and these are already sealed, by the way, so I'm going to get a socket just larger. Use this side here to drive it in. Okay, done. It was important that I didn't push on the seal or on the inner race and only on the outer race there. All right, let's move on to seals on the transmission. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. All right, so it's just a matter of putting these out enough to get these guys to unclip from here. There's a little tang sticking out there, and I'm going to go with, this is where the grease goes. I thought that I would find a bearing, a seal underneath this throwout bearing, but I don't see it. All right, I'm going to look in it may be buried inside. If that's the case, it's not coming apart in order to replace that piece. I've got easy access to the seal here, the seal there. So I've done some research and discovered that that oil seal that I guessed would be here is actually in between the bell housing and the transmission. And maybe they're calling this the differential because it does have the gears in it and such. Anyway, I'm not going to be taking that joint apart, so I don't need that seal. So I'm going to go ahead and move along with putting the throwout bearing in now. One of the other things I did while I was here is this hole is where the transmission oil is going to get pumped back into. And in order to access that, you need to remove the speedometer sensor. And it's got a good O-ring in there holding it. I pulled it apart, I cleaned it off, the drive gear there for the speedometer, and lubricated the O-ring. It was even harder to get off the first time. So anyway, I'm going to just shove it in the hole without the attaching screw, which I've put in my carousel of pockets. And so we'll put some grease on those surfaces there. And I may as well put some on the splines that the disc is going to slide back and forth on. And this would be a high temperature grease that is not going to break down and melt at the kind of temperatures that this could see. In goes the throwout bearing. There we go. Now let's pull these out. Get a screwdriver. Alright, so that is in all the way around. Okay, that is the input side. Trying to get it started somewhat close to flat. So the transmission is ready to be reinstalled. We've got the pilot bearing in there. Last thing now is the seal for the end of the crankshaft. The directions for removing the oil seal don't talk anything about removing whatever that is. They say, oddly enough, cut the seal with a razor blade and then remove with a screwdriver. I'm not really sure how that feels to me like that is not cuttable. I mean, like there's a seal or something there. So I'm going to try not to, there we go, not to scratch anything, which I believe we have successfully achieved. All right, now I'm going to lubricate the inside of the seal with grease. Lubricating, greasing. The crankshaft surface, which as I'm putting my fingers on it does not feel like it has got a groove worn in it, which is a good thing. Seal. In place. All right. Time for some tapping. Okay, so one of my tools requires the end of the crankshaft to sit slightly proud. This one does not, but this one is slightly big. That is on. So now we can proceed with cleaning and then, well, with reinstalling and then cleaning the flywheel. First of all, we'll get this in place with one of the bolts, keeping it from falling off onto my hand. Okay, so now that's in. Paper towel, clean off the face of the flywheel with brake cleaner. New clutch alignment tool. Clutch goes up against there. We've got the pressure plate, or as they call it in the manual, the clutch cover is cleaned with brake clean on it. So now I align. Okay, there are pins here somewhere. Okay, pin, and then on go the screws. So as these screws get torqued down, they will lock the pressure plate surface against the clutch disc. And the purpose of this alignment tool is so that the splines on the clutch disc align with the pilot bearing. Now we are supposed to tighten these, or torque them down in a star pattern. So again, we verified that the clutch tool goes in nice and straight. We don't need that anymore. Torque wrench. So we'll go for 100 inch-pounds and then bump that up to 150 and then finally do 180. new clutch installed.